bad behaviors because they have not healed from the trauma. Listening to what Mr. Matthew spoke about with the behavioral patterns, we then realize obviously the child is going to become a teen, the teen is going to become a young adult, the young adult is going to be in the workplace. How then can an employer help an employee when they start to have an outburst, or they may report to the HR, you know, I've gone through, I'm a survivor of, or I'm still going through and my behavior, blah, 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 blah. What is your take? What advice can you give? And Coach D, because I know you deal with a lot of girls as well in Southern Africa. And what is your experience as well too in helping young girls with behavioral patterns that will help to prepare them for the world that they're going into? Go ahead, distinguished Master Tony.
Thank you. Whether it's business or Toastmasters or a sports team or a school or any organization, when a person who is a survivor, victim, or a complainant, any person who has a grievance, has the courage to come to, let's call it an authority, you know, it could be government, and in business, we, you know, the tone is set in the first 10 seconds, or, you know, the person seeking assistance will know, and we all know this, from human reaction in the first few moments, if they will be taken with credibility. Now, in business, in government, institutions, you know, learning institutions, we're trained, or we should be trained. And as parents, our society should make this more of awareness. What we have to do is not ask questions first about what happened. Not what happened, but how are you feeling right now? Are you feeling safe? Are you feeling anxious? So imagine you come to me and you tell me your name, say it's Jane, for example, and we sit down, or, you know, and you ask, and you, as Gordon had alluded to, no, said very clearly, I should say, explicitly at the beginning, about the courage it takes, you know, and about, you know, the shame and the fear, and also what one of my fellow panelists mentioned later, you know, the concern about not being taken seriously. You know, if you come to me and I say to you, Jane, how do you feel now? Do you need anything now? Are you in trouble now? Are you anxious? You know, to immediately show concern for the person, no matter the age, that we're dealing with a human being in need who has the courage to present their concerns. So that's the first thing, to accept the person, that person, yes, has a grievance and needs to be listened to. So as people, as human beings, and if we're older, we should be more experienced and hopefully trained. But in business and other organizations, we should be trained. Most important thing, active listening. Active listening. And for hundreds of thousands of years in human development, humans did not speak. They communicated through gestures, facial, body, signs, signals, grunts. 80% of our communication when we're face to face, and as you have the fortune of being there in person, you know, that's the richest communication channel is in person. Zoom, you can see my face, my gestures. That's the second richest channel. But communicate, active listening. So if Jane comes to me and has a grievance, and I approach how she feels first, to alleviate those concerns of acceptance. Yes, immediately I start to express my acceptance. Yes, you have something to say. Not only by listening, I am communicating that not only do you have a voice, Jane, you're being listened to. And ways to do that is if you're talking to me, we have eye contact, but I'm not staring at you, but the proper appropriate contact. And when you're when you're expressing to me certain gestures, it's helpful that I would echo or reflect those same gestures in time as well. And that you, Jane, will speak 80% of the time, as the rule, generally, that varies, of course. The authority, if I'm in that position, 20% of the time. And when I do speak, I'm probing. I'm asking questions that are relevant. But again, how do you feel? What do you need? Then when that trust is starting to build, because I have to, as an authority, I have to earn that trust. Because after all, you, Jane, are coming to me with the fear, the shame, the concern that you're not being listened to. I have to start to build the trust with you. I have a responsibility, and especially if you're a teenager and I'm an adult, I really have to work at it because there's a bias to overcome. And of course, as human beings, we know there's a lot of biases and different biases. Active listening. That's step number one, to build that trust. And then the response. What is the response? So once things are worked out, once we get to the point that there's some trust being built, what is the response? It's very critical. And sometimes, as we've talked about, very appropriately, very, very well here, sometimes it's a very difficult situation. What is the meaningful response? It may not be a solution. It may be a step in the right direction, or it may be a number of steps in the right direction. That's important. Yeah. And then, really important, accountability. Are we going to hold people accountable for what's going on? Not just with Jane's situation, but what's going on in our societies. Are we going to hold people accountable? Now, if I'm an authority, if I'm someone that Jane approaches, I have to recognize I must be accountable to Jane. That is our personal social contract. We have a social contract as human beings when this happens. I must earn my license to be of assistance to Jane. Now, this takes training, takes experience, it takes awareness, but it is possible. But most importantly, it's education, knowledge, and that's what we're doing here. There's I can quote you people. There's one person who's a marketing guru named Seth Godin, and he says that sharing of stories is the most important output of society. The sharing of stories is the most important output of society, because with all the screens, with the cell phone screens and iPad screens and all the screens we have available, the connectivity, our social circles become so important. So that if Jane now starts to believe, okay, there's this older man named Tony, and maybe I could trust him, or maybe he'll come back to me with a meaningful response. And if proven that people are held accountable, if I'm accountable to Jane, Jane will tell her social circle about it. And the social circle will start to spread that this is the way to go. So we all are involved, whether it's business or church or school. It's the same thing. We all have a responsibility in society, a social license. So with the and I did not catch your first names. And I'm sorry, because I would be, if we're communicating, if you come to me, if your name is Jane, I would be using your name often. Jane, not too often, but so that you know that I am actively listening to you as a human being. Although you may be 1/3 my age or 1/5 my age, you are my equal. And I have a responsibility to you that not only do you have a voice, I am listening, and I have a duty to you to provide a meaningful response, and I will try to do it. And if there is something did happen, there will be accountability. And that's how we build. That's how we live and grow together.
Wow, wow. Thank you. That is definitely, wow. Yeah, that's makes a yeah, a father right behind me saying it makes it's really deep. That's an whew.
We have a duty to each other.
Before I come to you, Coach D, go you. Wow, wow. Yeah, that's just some gems of knowledge right there. You know. Ooh, wow. Coach D, go right ahead.
All right. Thank you so much. And just listening to what Tony was saying, I was looking at it to say, how do the young people prepare for the future? I would say the upskilling is key. And one of those essential skills is communication. And he even then touched on the active listening. I also want to say, once you build that skill of communicating, even in a difficult situation, you will have built the confidence to then be able to speak up and talk about what it is that you're going through, good or bad. Also building on your courage, because you may have the ability to communicate, but maybe lack the courage to talk about those situations that you may find yourself in. Another way the young people can prepare themselves is to build solid relationships. Because if you have those solid relationships, even if you don't communicate verbally, those around you or those close to you will be able to notice the difference in you, to actually then stop you and say, Francoise, there's something wrong. Would you want to talk about, because you are in a relationship and you know how your friend usually behaves. So when you see a change in their behavior, you're also then able to draw it out of them and give them that safe space. Having self-value is also then another attribute I would say to the young people. Build on having self-value, where you're not waiting for someone to authenticate or rubber stamp to say you are worth something, you are somebody. If you have your own self-value, you'll tend to behave differently and be in charge of what happens to you. And where one of the young parliamentarians was saying, she doesn't look at it as being a victim. And so if you've got that self-worth, that self-value, in any situation, you're seeing yourself as the victor. And so as much as bad things or wrong things can happen to you, you are still stepping forward and saying, even in what I've gone through, I am a victor and I am someone who is worth something. And so you then don't feel worthless in the process. So I would say with those, the building on your communication skills, your confidence building, your building on courage, self-value, and relationship building are what the younger people can work on in preparation for a better future. Back to you.
Oh, thank you so much. Wow. I didn't hear the clap.